Welcome to the Piston Fanatic. I'm your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been the varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. Before we get started, please click on that subscribe button. So, Piston fans, I'm sorry I didn't get on after the game last night. I woke up Monday morning, I got a call from the Piston'S office, and they offered me free tickets to the game. So they've been listening to our podcast, and I was afraid at first that they were just going to try to get my sources from me, but it wasn't. They just liked the podcast, and they knew I was a longtime Piston fan, so they invited me down there. They took me on a little tour. And then tonight, I went and watched my granddaughter play down in Saline. She's on the varsity team. She's a sophomore. She's had 22 tonight. She had 26 last game. Their team's 3-0. Shout out to the Saline Hornets. And so I got back late. It's like a 4-hour drive for me. So anyway, we're going to talk about the 20th loss in a row by our Pistons in a 131 to 123 loss to the Pacers, making our record 2-21. And we're going to talk about Ivey, Cade, and Ausar putting on display our future, and it was promising. And maybe you agree or you don't agree, but we're also going to talk about, after 23 games, some revelations that Monty Williams has finally had. And I must say, we're going to also discuss he had better rotations tonight than we've had before, and I was pretty pleased with that. And so let's start with some quotes from Monty. He says, "We're trying to change up the rotations a bit to get certain combinations on the floor where Ivey can have live ball situations. I don't think there's anybody in the league that can catch that kid. Except for Monty, he can stop him by putting him on the bench," and which he's done all year, playing him very few minutes. Tonight he didn't start, but he played a season-high 34 minutes, so that was very encouraging. Of course, Monty's played him before. The last time, maybe 7 or 8 games ago, we played the Pacers, and Ivey had 21 and Cade had 31 or something like that, or I don't know. Anyway, they combined for 56 points. And then Ivey's back on the bench again. So never can completely trust him, but I mean, it was promising. Again, the rotations, he started Ausar. Ausar has been playing like 13 minutes or 19 minutes and hasn't been starting, and then he starts him, and he was fabulous last night. So I have to admit, I mean, I don't trust him, but I will say I really like the rotations, and I think there's hope going forward. So, there's a lot of things that cost us the game. So obviously we didn't have, Bagley couldn't play, Duran couldn't play, so we were very undersized. And Monty talked about that and about how we were a bit undersized, so we got out rebounded 30 to 43. And they scored on us at the rim at will throughout the game, but we had no size down there. So a lot of you aren't big fans of James Wiseman, but he came in there and he played really well. In 13 minutes, he had 3 blocks, and he was active. There's some games Wiseman, he doesn't seem that he has as much energy, or he doesn't react as fast, but he was forceful last night, and we were undersized, and so, we needed a bigger guy. We got it killed on the boards. We had nobody to protect the rim, and he's played him only 13 minutes. And it doesn't make sense. And so we're really in trouble when we have Livers, and I talked about this before, Livers and Stu out there, and those are our 2 bigs. We can't rebound, and we can't, they can't jump, and they're not big. They're 6'7" and 6'8", and then we're playing against Miles Turner and their other bigs, and we just got dominated. And like I said, they can drive the ball to the rim. They drove to the rim all day, and we had nobody there to even challenge them. So hopefully he figures that out, and we're playing Joel Embiid tomorrow night, so he's got to think fast. So anyway, he said it hurt us being undersized, and he's just trying to figure out combinations where we can be more efficient and stagger bogey by staggering people and having better opportunities for guys to score. And we're just starting to figure it out. He says 23 games in, he's had all training camp, and I knew before the season started that it was going to take time. A new coach, a new set of players. He did get to watch them in the summer. He watched them in the facilities in the fall, and they were able to coach him some. and then he had preseason. I mean, he had training camp and then preseason, and he did mention. So a big part of it tonight, um, Bogey struggled, and he didn't do so great the last game, but he was, consistently great last year. And but Monty mentioned that him and Livers both. This is like their training camp. They haven't had training camp, and it really impacted Cade his rookie year. When you miss all of training camp and preseason, and you don't get, to get on, get rolling like everybody else, you're kind of behind a little bit. So we're hoping that that's right, and that Bogey comes back, because we win this game if Bogey plays like he did last year. So he missed some good shots. He got some good shots at some key opportune times, and he just missed them. He shot 5 for 14, not 34, 5 for 14, and at the very end of the game, in the closing seconds, the Pacers just let him drive in to get a layup. So he really would have been 4 for 13, and that's just not Bogey-like. And so he was 3 for 9 on threes, and again, he had some nice looks that he missed, but 4 for 7 on free throws, and he's a 90% shooter for his career, and 4 for 7. So that's just shows you where he's at. He scored 17 points, but he had 2 turnovers. They took the ball away from him at a key moment down the stretch and got a layup off. They just stripped him and drove, I think it was Bruce Brown maybe, and drove to the other end and got a layup. So we just got to get more. But the big thing is our 3, I talk about the core 4, and obviously there's only 3 of them here because Duren's out. But this is, I should have started out with this, but Cade, Ivey, and Ausar scored 61 points, and they look fabulous, and they shot over 50%. All of them did, and they're really efficient, and they just showed what they can do, and that they can play together. And all 3 of them played. Ausar played 33 minutes, and like I said, Ivey played a season high 34 minutes, and Cade played 38. So they played a lot of minutes, and so that's not happened all year. But here's a big thing, and I got this from James Edwards III on The Athletic. Cade, Ivey, Ausar, and Duren, our core 4, have played 11 games. They've only played 11 games together. And obviously that's this year because Ausar's a rookie. But even Cade, Ivey, and Duren, this is their second year together. They have only played 22 games together in 2 years. That's crazy to think about. And we were down about our, obviously we have every right to be disappointed about this season. It's a disaster. But the core 4, again, I keep on preaching it. That's what's important, and that's where our future is. And they haven't got to really even get on the court together. Duren's been hurt a lot. Ivey got sick partway through the season. Cade missed almost all of last year. And, Duren's in and out of the lineup. He's been with those ankle injuries consistently. And so hopefully that happens, but that's just, that's going to, if we can get those 4 guys playing together, even if we just get it's so much fun to watch these 3 guys. I mean, if you watch, when you're down at those games during timeouts or breaks between quarters, they got this group of guys that always comes out there, and they jump on these mini tramps, and they throw the ball way up in the air, and they do backflips and all kinds of flips, and then they dunk it through. That's what Ausar looks like when he's jumping off the floor. He gets up so high so fast, but he was really active, and he shot 8 for 10. And, most of those were dunks. He did make 1 3. So I'm a big proponent, though. He said that we have to make sure we have guys out there. Again, it's hilarious to me. He's starting to figure out after 23 games that we can score if we have space on the floor. And I'm just learning how to use certain guys, he said, and like to set more screens. So he did talk about this, about Ausar, and the first 3 possessions against the Pacers, him and Cade pick and roll. First possession, Cade throws in a bounce pass, pocket pass to Ausar, and he dunks it. Next 2 possessions, everybody goes with Ausar. Cade drives in for a layup. So we scored 6 points right off the bat with that pick and roll. We didn't use it very much after that. But here's the thing. Ausar, they interviewed him after the game, and he said he really had to work hard the last 2 practices learning how to set pick and roll, how to run the pick and roll. And that is funny to me that they've never worked with him on that. It's funny that they didn't at Overtime Elite. They did work with him on that. So anyway, it was is what it is, and so hopefully Monty continues to let those three guys play, and when Duran comes back, let them play, and let those four guys play together, and Bogey gets back under control. But we still have no, we play the 76ers twice in a row, and they are rolling everybody, and Embiid and Maxey are scoring 60 a game between the two of those guys. Like every game, I think they're averaging that. And now we have no size. Who knows if Bagley will be able to come back tomorrow night. But if he doesn't, I just hope that they give Weissman a chance. And if Weissman's stinking it up, don't take him out. But, he played good last night. And so, but it does tickle me that Monty has these revelations all of a sudden that, we got to do things for Ivey and how nobody can guard him, and he is a fast break waiting to happen. I mean, I think we should outlet the ball to Ivey more often and not Cade, and have Cade just run down the floor, because Ivey just really speeds the game up, and even if the other 9 guys are between him and the basket, he can go right through everybody, and it's just so unbelievable that they had Miles Turner, who's great at blocking shots, but Ivey has this way of getting to the rim and getting high. It seems like he always gets to the right side. So it's funny that how we keep getting the right side, and they know it, and they still can't stop it. So that's really cool. But I do think that we got Ivey and Cade and Bogey that can score. And again, we've underutilized Kelser, and Tim McCormick said that Ivey's been underutilized this year. And those guys that announce on the TV games, they are employed by the Detroit Pistons. So they very rarely ever say anything critical about any player or anything that the coaches do. And they still act like they weren't like adamant, and they weren't like I get sometimes, where I am visibly frustrated with things that the coaches do. But they try to be more tactful, but they still never usually speak out like that and say that this guy's been underused, or they'll say, I don't know why Ivey's not playing more, But anyway, hopefully this is the start. I thought it was the start before, and if we can somehow recoup, I think it's going to be real hard to fire Monty, and so hopefully he's come to these revelations, and he's going to play Ausar and Cade and Ivey together and give them a lot of 30 or more minutes, and we're going to get to see those guys develop. Even we still might lose, but if Bogey gets hot and some other guys get hot, we still have a chance. But it's just there's not a lot. So they didn't play Sasser last night, and so some guys have to fall by the wayside if they're going to play. So let's go quickly through the box scores. The Ausar had played 33 minutes, 8 for 10, like I mentioned, 1 for 2 on threes. And I was down there watching the game, and he's practicing those corner threes nonstop. When he was in warm-ups, he spent a majority of his time practicing corner threes, and that's what he's going to get. I think he gets his left hand too far back behind the ball, and I wish I could talk to those guys. But anyway, he had 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and then he had 1 steal, 1 block, and 1 turnover, which 1 turnover playing 33 minutes for Ausar is great. And I think it's probably the time. So down the stretch, he got the ball down low, and he just fumbled it away and lost it. And that's happened to him before. And then 1 or 2 possessions later, Stu posts up down low, and we throw the ball into him, and he just fumbles it out of bounds. And then a few possessions later, Ivey's going a million miles an hour, and then he just loses the ball out of bounds and falls down. So we just got this team, and we're just, we're in there battling with them, and we're close. And we're playing the team. They're the highest scoring team. If they continue at this rate, the Pacers will be the highest scoring team in NBA history, which, that's happening like every year, that the next team that's scoring a lot is the highest scoring team. Forget who is the highest scoring team in NBA history. I think that was last year. So a lot of points are being scored in the NBA. You have to have good offenses, and you have to have 3-point shooting. That is, it's hard to outscore teams if they're making threes and you're making twos. And we just haven't had the guys on the court that can make the threes. So, again, I went over Bogey's thing. Like I said, he was 5 for 14, and one of those shots was right at the end. Stu, 34 minutes, he was 5 for 5, and he plays his butt off, but he was undersized. He can't, he just can't do much against those bigger guys, and he's like our biggest guy. And again, I repeatedly said this, he's 6'8", and he can't jump. And so he can't protect the rim, and he's not going to rebound in traffic against guys like Miles Turner and their other bigs. So um, he was 1 for 1 on threes. So I was going to go in, and I got home real late. This is going to be uploaded really late, but I wanted to look at what he's done the last 5 games. I don't think he's hardly attempted hardly any threes the last 5 games. He was 2 for 4 on free throws, which isn't great. 7 rebounds, even playing 34 minutes, and we needed him to get more. 2 assists, 2 turnovers, 13 points. Cade, another really good game. And the only problem is he scored 23 points tonight. He had 21 points with 7 minutes left in the third, and so he didn't get shots, he didn't get opportunities, or he didn't have the ball enough, or also, and this happens in every game, they blitzed him. They blitzed him. Orlando really blitzed him. I didn't talk about that. They were 40 feet from the basket. They sent 2 guys at him like 6 times in a row. Orlando did, and then he gives it up, which is the right play. And then Bagley fumbled it under the basket, not against the Pacers, but against Orlando. Then he ends up scoring. But anyway, teams are just doing that. But that's why we have to have Bogey and Ivey on the court. If you have those guys on the court and they blitz Cade, then we got the ball can find those other 2 guys, and we have a good chance of scoring. So he had 7 assists and 3 turnovers. 3 turnovers I'm going to take all day. When he plays 38 minutes and shoots 21 shots and has 7 assists, 3 turnovers is acceptable, more than acceptable. 23 points, like I said, and there's he still isn't efficient enough. He's turned the ball over too much, but the truth is, there's they put on a graphic on the telecast, and it showed that there's 5 guys in the NBA that have scored 450 points and had 150 assists, and it's Cade and Luka and Tyrese Halliburton, but Cade's one of those guys, one of those 5 guys in the league, and so he's a really good player, and he shot, except his 3 ball wasn't going tonight, and so it looks flat. Again, that's one of the good things about going to a game. You actually get to really see how flat it is. His mid-range looked a little bit flat also, but Killian, 23 minutes, so his minutes are going down a little bit. He was 2 for 4, but that's not very many shots, but it's not easy for him to score. There was a play that Beef Stew gets the ball cutting down the middle of the court, and Beef Stew has a layup or a dunk, and then instead of shooting it, he's afraid. He caught the ball underneath the basket another time where he's afraid because he just can't get up around with those bigger guys around the rim when he catches the ball down low. Where Duran, he can just take it up and hammer it right, from flat-footed. But instead of shooting it, Stu dished it to Killian. Killian drove in and missed the layup, but he didn't play bad. Killian's, again, I think he's a backup. I think he's a good backup. But what are we going to do? So we got a whole lot of things. We're lucky we got 3/4 of the season. Hopefully things pan out, because we have Burks and Monty Morris, who we haven't even seen yet, and they're free agents at the end of the year. So what's going to happen? And then we have Killian as a restricted free agent. So we could be losing those 3 guys. Then Sasser, who didn't play tonight, who is a decent guy. He's very undersized for the NBA. He's one of the smaller guys in the league. But he played really well at the beginning of the year, and then he fell off. But, I'm sure we're not going to keep all those guys. And who knows who we're going to keep. Who knows what what Killian's going to want for his contract. But Livers had a better game tonight than what he usually does. But he had played 17 minutes, which isn't bad. He was 2 for 5 on threes and 2 for 2 from free throws. Had 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. So that's a good game with 0 turnovers, 8 points. So that's the kind of role player we need. But so 17 minutes is probably about what we want to. Again, I talked about Weissman, 13 minutes only. When we're way undersized, we're getting dominated inside. They're taking the ball to the rim, and there's not anybody to challenge anybody. And he has 3 blocks in 13 minutes. But he was 1 for 1 shooting. He had a putback dunk. Ivey drove in. The ball came off the rim, and he hammered it. And then he had 4 rebounds, 3 blocks, 4 points. So Ivey, 34 minutes, season high, 7 for 15. So he shot well, 0 for 3 on threes. I'm not sure his 3-point shot was really good all year, even when he was getting inconsistent minutes. 4 for 4 from the line, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, 18 points. So a real good game. And Monty acts like he just discovered this guy's really good. And so the guy that he hasn't started or played very much. So hopefully, like I said, I can complain about him and get mad, but he did it last night, and so hopefully he does it Wednesday against in the rest of the season. It's got to be for the rest of the season. So Burks, he's had 2 great games, and he only played 13 minutes. And I was mad when he only played 20, but you can't play everybody all the minutes. But Burks, 13 minutes, 4 for 6. 2 for 3 on threes, 4 for 4 on free throws, and that is efficient. He had a lot of those games last year. So he scored 14 points, and he only took 6 shots. And so that's huge for your team. Maybe he should have played more, but he's not the greatest defender. But we shot 56%, and they are the worst defense. They're the highest scoring offense, but they're the worst defense. So that's part of why we did so well. But we were 10 for 19, 29, 35% on threes, which isn't quite good enough to win, especially we need Bogey. Like I said, we got him the ball in some good spots, and we had some other open looks, and we missed them. 23 for 30 on free throws, and so they were only 14 for 19 on free throws. But we got killed on the boards. We got beat. They had 18 turnovers, and we only had 14. But they still scored more points off our turnovers than we scored off their turnovers. But like I said, it was a good adjustment to have Ausar set ball screens, and so that makes it so you can't, if you set a ball screen, then his man can't sag. Then he can create space that way. There was a play, though, when Cade had a pick and roll on the opposite side. So Ausar was in the corner, which he still sticks in there sometimes. He was in the opposite corner from the side where Cade was running the pick and roll. And Cade comes off the pick and roll, and Ausar's man, he's all the way in the opposite corner, and Ausar's man is right in the lane on the side, the ball side, on the opposite side. That was Obi Toppin. And Cade drives in there, and Ausar comes flying through like Superman, and Cade lobs up over the rim, and Ausar dunks it. So that was a cool play. So that's another way you can use Ausar, even though he can't space the floor. So Halliburton is a great player. He is one of the best players in the NBA. He should make first team All-NBA. He's doing stuff right now that nobody's done in history. If he continues, he's averaging like 27 points and 12 assists. He's leading the league in assists. Nobody's ever done that in history. Nobody's ever averaged 27, and I don't think anybody's ever averaged 26 and 12 rebounds. So anyway, even 11 assists, I mean. So he is super, but the cool thing is tonight, Ausar guarded him. And we wanted Ausar to guard Bane, and we should have doubled Bane. Teams double Cade all the time. Every game, Cade gets blitzed by 2 guys, and we don't do that, but we did it a little bit with Halliburton. So again, give Monty credit. He's a slow learner, it seems like, but he did it with Ausar a little bit last night. But Halliburton had a way subpar game. He only had 14 points, but his shooting percentage was not good. So he shot way under what he normally shoots. So and he had 7 turnovers. So on top of the fact that he's doing all these historical things, he only averages 2.5 turnovers. 2.5 turnovers a game, and he's getting 12 assists a game. So nobody's ever done that. Nobody in the history of basketball has averaged that many assists and only that many turnovers. So he is a remarkable player. And again, I wanted him on our team before the draft, before the picks were made, not in hindsight after the picks were made. And not that I'm a genius, but I just looked at what he could do. He shot over 40% on threes in college. At a high level college, he shot over 50% on twos and 90% on free throws, and he averaged 6 assists a game in college, which is a really high number for college, and 1 turnover. And 10 teams passed on him, so it wasn't just Monty Williams. I'm not Monty Williams. It wasn't just Troy Weaver. So another guy I wanted. So my draft order for Ivey's year was I like Ivey. I'm happy with Ivey, but my order of choices for the number 5 pick when we got Ivey, I wanted Shaden Sharp first, Mathurin second, Ivey third, and Keegan Murray fourth. And I liked all 4 of those guys. And I was hoping that Portland would trade us their 7th pick for Jeremy Grant. Instead, we got a pick they owned from the Bucks. It was, for 2025. So we just didn't get near as much. But I was hoping we would get 2 of those 4 guys. But Mathurin, 37 minutes off the bench, 10 for 17, 3 for 5 from 3, 7 for 8 from the line, 30 points. And that's a good bench player. They started him early in the year. He is a little bit of a temperamental, high-strung guy, but he played great last night. And, we would have had a shot if he wouldn't have played so great. So I'm going to be on again after the game tomorrow night with the 76ers. But I apologize for not getting this out quicker. But again, I was downstate, so I couldn't do this. And I know a lot of you look forward to listening to it for whatever reason. I surely appreciate that. But remember to subscribe, be the reason that someone feels heard and cared about. And go Pistons.